So the game of the week for sure is LSU and Florida State. And this is no hyperbole to say that this is actually one of the games of the year, even though it is taking place in week 1. You have 2 top 10 teams, actually two top 8 teams that are going at it. You have 2 of the Heisman favorites going at it as well. And you also have 2 teams that have a very clear path to getting to the college football playoff. And so to say that this is, one of the games of the year, if not outside of the Ohio State, what we assume is going to be the Ohio State, Michigan would be probably the game of the year, because the winner of that will get into the playoff. I mean, this could be literally right there whenever we're talking about games of the year at the end of the season. And we're going to have to think all the way back to week 1 when LSU and Florida State played.
I mean, I'm just focused on the squirrel on the field here in Penn State. We got flies in the studio, squirrels on the field. It's all happening. This is going to be a phenomenal game tomorrow night. I actually feel bad for you. We're going to be in studio while this game's going on. If you didn't know, Matt, diehard LSU fan.
All the TVs are going to be on this game. That's
so
the only thing
he's just going to be sitting like this for about 3 hours staring up there. This is going to be a fun one. It was a fun one last year. Came right down to the wire. Blocked extra point decides that. Again, we've got 2 phenomenal quarterbacks here who both came on as the season went on. They're going to show out in this game. I love this Florida State offense. I'm really excited to see what they're going to be able to do here with 2 big-time wide receivers, targets on the outside, 6'7" and 6'4", respectively. I got to ask you, Matt, specifically about the secondary at LSU. Because as I was doing my deep dive on these teams, 5 guys came in through the portal for LSU's secondary this year. Is that a positive or a negative in your mind?
Well, I mean, so if you look, it's guys that kind of overachieved. Some of the guys that overachieved at smaller programs, some of the guys coming in from bigger programs. I mean, and they're going to have to start and they're going to have to play big minutes. I think the bigger issue for me here is the suspension of Mason Smith. And I could go on my rant and diatribe here about how the NCAA just completely botched this. This was apparently signed some autographs literally 2 months before the NIL deal went into place, and is still having to serve a game suspension. The most important game of the year for this team, and he's having to sit out this it's just, anyway, they botched this completely. But this is a dude who is potential first rounder. So this isn't a backup guy, a rotational guy that's going to have to miss this game. This is a guy that's a potential first rounder if he plays up to expectation this year, and he's having to sit out the most important game of the year. And he's a guy that plugs up the middle with a run defense last year that was suspect at times, for sure, and so that's a huge, huge loss here. And I expect Florida State to take full advantage of that, right? I mean, the guys up front for LSU are good, but the depth isn't necessarily there. And he's not going to be out there, right? So they're going to have to be playing one of these depth chart guys. And I think I'm not going to say that's going to be the difference in the game, but for me, I didn't bet it. I thought I was going to end up on LSU without any bias even, because I just think that they're probably a better team top to bottom on paper. But man, I cannot get past that glaring hole in the middle of the defensive line, in which I think Florida State might just run it and run it and run it and run it. And if that's the case, then, it could be a bad night for LSU.
You're hearing that Perkins may actually move inside for part of the game as well. That's a huge concern. I mean, that's another first-round DN guy who is just wildly athletic, can go after the quarterback anytime he wants to. If you're moving him to the inside, you're essentially helping against the run, but you're not nearly as good rushing the passer.
Yeah, I mean, literally one of the best pass rushers, as a freshman, right? Literally one of the best pass rushers in the nation as a freshman. Think what he's going to be this year, but he might have to slide over, as you said, because they just don't have the depth there at that position.
And this is Florida State's best offensive line we've seen in probably 5 years. I mean, they've got 4 returning starters. They should be very good up front. I'm not surprised we've seen this line move toward Florida State. It was as high as 2.5. A couple threes popped up for LSU. Now we're sitting on 1.5. I did bet this game, Matt.
And you went to the other side.
I didn't go to the other side.
Oh, all right.
Give me the team total over 27.5 for Florida State.
Okay.
I think Florida State's going to be effective moving the football. I think LSU's going to be effective moving the football too. So for me, I thought it was easier to focus in on where the biggest edge was, and that is the Florida State offense against the LSU defense, especially with what we're seeing coming out of the LSU camp here around where they're going to be moving these defensive linemen around.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.